Just wanted to do a little follow-up video on my 1987 Suzuki Samurai engine under the hood. Just gonna show you what I got going on here. Done a lot of things. Most recently, I just installed a custom airbox that goes to the snorkel. I ended up removing the stock airbox. Obviously, I have the Sidewinder CV carb 44mm setup here. Ran a 90 elbow. Goes from 3.5 inch down to 3 inch. Plexiglass lid here. I ended up cutting off the little mounting bracket here. Mounted up my bus bar there so I could run all my lines, clean everything up, and it's all fusible. That's the thermostat, I guess, for the electric fan. Took off the mechanical fan, have the electric fan. So this thermostat basically controls the temperature and senses the temperature through this wire here that just stabs through the low range off-road aluminum radiator. Custom box made out of sheet metal with a plexi lid, gasket. Hopefully keep the water out and keep that filter clean and keep the carburetor and engine just breathing clean air through there. Did a little modification here to the carburetor. The throttle cable here, when it sits in the carburetor, it sat outside of the I guess throttle cable adapter here on the carb. So I just bent this little piece of metal around and then ran a little tiny bolt through here so that basically just it's more of just a assurance issue, just to make sure that that throttle cable doesn't, you know, pop out of there at any given point. This just secures it in there and doesn't give it anywhere to move. On the regulator here, coming out of the regulator, I got some, I guess, motorcycle fuel line. It's a clear fuel line, but it's really thick walled, so it allows me to bend and do my 90 without kinking the hose there, or the line. I picked that up at just a bike shop, basically. Got about a foot of it or whatever. So the fuel out of the regulator, you know, fuel comes out, goes through the filter that came with the CV carb setup. I have it running into this little brass 90 here. That's got a barb there and a barb down below, so I can actually screw in my pressure regulator. So I can kind of keep an eye on that, make sure the pressure is good coming off of the fuel pump here. It goes down around and it feeds into the regulator, and then the regulator regulates, and so on and so forth. Ran clear line down into the carburetor there. It's the choke cable. Choke cable runs across and over through right back in there through the firewall. I just put some of that what the heck's that stuff called? There we go, protective wiring wrap. Just pick some of this stuff up here at Harbor Freight, just to kind of give it a little bit of a heat barrier as it's sitting on top of the valve cover there. It doesn't get too hot, but just protects that throttle cable and the choke cable. What I did also on this airbox, it can actually fit the larger Canon filter. I'm just running this one for now, just because that's what came with my carburetor when I got the, you know, the filter, that filter, and the little filter which typically is mounted to the top here of the valve cover. It gets really dirty. Here's an example of one that I was running for, I don't know, maybe 200 miles or so. It just got really dirty. Obviously, a lot of fumes are coming off of that valve there, or the valve cover there, from the engine. So you kind of get an odor inside the cabin a little bit, and you kind of smell that, especially when you're in traffic at a stoplight or something. You'll start to smell a little bit of that. So by doing this, I'm still running basically, all of this is basically stock, and the stock line ran down to the stock air box. So what I did is I ran a line down through the sidewall here of my air box, and then I mounted a little filter down inside of there. The filter sits at the base of the air box, and the air box is basically like an upside down house, if you could imagine. Here's actually, this is kind of a mock-up that I did when I was working on it. So you can see how right there on this mock-up, that's where that filter goes in, and then this sits down in. This part obviously hugs the wheel well, and this part runs on the support here, and there's just a bolt here holding it, and then down through the wheel well I got a bolt here holding it. So I got these little tabs on the box itself, so it's not going to move anywhere. The rubber I guess reducer fitting that I got goes from I think it's 2 3/4 coming off of the snorkel, and then I have it, it scales up to basically 3-inch. So I'm running 3-inch here on the airbox, and then I'm running 3-inch here on the airbox, which obviously this metal pipe or tube that actually comes all the way through, so that I got a 3-inch diameter on the inside, so I can mount the filter there. Let's see here, other little goodies and whatnot. Here I have this line running up here to the Piranha Off-Road, I guess, smart dual battery system. I guess they call it a smart system because it'll protect all your electronics or anything, so that there's no back feeding going through. It's kind of like a one-way charging system. What it does is it monitors the main battery, and as the main battery is full, it basically then allows the current to feed through to the dual battery, and then it'll start charging the dual battery. When the dual battery is full, it'll actually shut off and stop. It has also some LED indicators here. It's really nice. Basically, when it's green and ready, it'll switch over, and then they'll both be green, and then that means it's charging. If it turns yellow, there's some other settings, I guess, basically that will indicate like if the secondary battery is not getting a good charge, or if it's overcharging, or if there's an issue. It can turn red, and there's basically various like one red light, one green light, depending on what's going on. There's a chart that comes with it that allows you to read that information and understand what's happening. MSD blaster, what we got here? These are the is that NGK ignition wires. Put new NGK spark plugs in there when I set up the carburetor. Adjusted the timing based on the little tick mark there on the pulley. I think it's actually set around 9. It's a little under 10 degrees. Just based on the new carburetor and everything that's running, I was having an issue where I'd shut off the engine and it wouldn't want to shut off. It would just kind of keep going and sputter a little bit before it died. So basically I adjusted the timing. You know, I had a timing light on that pulley down there, and then basically adjusted the distributor there to get it at, you know, at warm temperature, running temperature, I guess. I'm running about 9-10 degrees, and it seems to basically be running, turning on, and shutting off properly now. Running low range off-roads. Can't remember if this is the Tri-Y header. Basically new pipes all the way back. Here, what I did is I took a custom, or I took a, not a custom, sorry, but I think it's like a 50 caliber ammo box. Here's the lid that came with it. Basically, it was a $20 box that I picked up at grocery store actually, and basically cut the top off so that it's, you know, it'll sit under the hood with the lid on. I was hoping to keep the lid on just because it kind of creates a nice airtight, you know, don't have to worry about things splashing up in there, but with the lid on it sat too high, so I just kind of chopped the lid off, which worked out really well because I ended up picking up the ARB differential breather kit, and this allowed me to mount the, you know, the filter, I guess, in here. Obviously with the lid on it wouldn't have proper breathing unless I drilled like holes in the side to allow air to come in and out. But this worked out really nice, so it keeps, you know, keeps that safe from splashes and whatnot. Obviously if water comes up in here, you know, there is a drain hole essentially, which is where my wires are coming in for my secondary bus bar here, which I have just little 12 volt charging ports, so that if I need to charge cell phone or hook up a you know, 12 volt cooler or something when I'm camping or whatever, I have those available here, which just feed off of the secondary battery there. On the front here, if you've seen some of my other install videos, running the ARB bull bar, Warren V R8000 winch. That is hooked up to the dual battery here. I did upgrade, let's see if I can see it here. There's a pretty good shot. I ended up taking out the oil sensor, which is down here. That's actually a new one. So that sensor was just screwed into the block there, and that just basically was your indicator for your oil light. I ended up extending it out, and I'm running a T, so I still have my sensor, which is a newer one, but then it also let me run a oil pressure gauge. I'm running the mechanical one. I tried the electric one. It wasn't really working properly. I don't know if there was just an electrical issue or if the electrical solenoid down here or something was busted or something, but it didn't really work, so I'm just running a mechanical one, which actually has that line there that oil runs into. It runs up through here, goes through this hole in the engine, or sorry, in the firewall, and then it's running back to my gauge, which basically I mounted right here. So a little dark here, but basically I have a the line comes down, you know, from the firewall, runs up here, and then just into the back of this, and just mounted that there to the dash. The one thing to note that I didn't know until I started doing this, but basically this is 1/8 inch pipe, which is, I guess, standard 1/8 inch pipe thread. That does not screw directly into the block. It looks exactly the same thread when you pull out this little sensor. and you hold them side by side, you won't really be able to tell. But the 1/8 inch pipe has American thread, and I could be wrong, but I believe it has 26 26 thread count on standard 1/8 inch American pipe. But the thread count that screws into the block, where the original sensor just screwed right in, is actually a British thread, or British standard, which actually has one more thread. So basically you're, instead of having, you know, this is exaggerated, but instead of having an inch, well, a 1/4 inch of 26 threads, they have a 1/4 inch of 27 threads. So there's one more thread. So basically you have to buy this little adapter that allows you to screw the adapter in, that is British male thread on one side, and then on the other side it's the American, I guess, American US standard pipe thread for 26 thread count. So then I just extended it out, put my T-fitting on, and then ran my cables as I just showed you. Seemed to work okay once I figured out that the threads were different. When I unscrewed that original sensor, when the engine was cold, there wasn't really any oil that came out of there, so I didn't, you know, so if you're doing this yourself, you don't really have to worry about that. A little bit dribbled out, but nothing, it's not like it started gushing out. I don't know, kind of have some issues, possible issues. Seems to be burning oil. I would say fairly quick, I guess. I don't know if that's normal. I know there's obviously, it's normal for oil leaks to happen around the distributor and so on and so forth. I did end up ordering a new valve cover seal because I noticed there was some oil kind of, not really spewing out, but just kind of showing up around the edges of the valve cover. So I purchased a new seal from Low Range. It also came with new, I guess, seals for the actual 4 bolts, which is nice. So basically just, you know, unbolted those, hopped off the valve cover, took off the old seal, kind of cleaned it up and whatnot, put on the new seal, and bolted it back down basically. I didn't really bolt it super tight because it wasn't super tight when it came off. I just kind of hand tightened it until it felt about right. Not entirely sure if there's a foot-pound torque, or I guess it'd be inch-pound torque for that. My oil issue, from what I gather, and how it's burning so much oil, it could be, obviously, it changed a lot of things, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But from just talking with some people, it could be the actual valve seals. So those, I guess, those little seals under there could be going bad, which is allowing oil to actually flow down into, I guess, whatever those valves lead to. I'm not a mechanic, so don't entirely know. It could be leading to the actual piston heads, I guess. I don't know. So maybe that's how it's burning additional oil as I'm driving and whatnot. It could be potentially leaking through there. So I'm gonna keep an eye on my oil. I just changed my oil, so we'll see where it's at after I, you know, drive it for another, you know, 500 to 1,000 miles. I'll keep monitoring that, and if it seems to continuously be burning oil, I may have to get new valve seals and install those. A couple other things, I guess. The ARB diff breathers, the front one actually runs straight down. That's kind of how I'm running it there. So it is right there. It's that hose that runs down. It comes with like a nylon hose, or at least the kit that I got did. I don't know if you could specify any other hose types. I'll show you what it looks like underneath. Oh, come on, flashlight, there we go. So right there is the hose that comes down and connects there. I got some slack on there. I ended up jacking up the front
as I installed that, so I had plenty of room, so I knew how far down that diff will drop at its most, I guess, the bottom sag or whatever you want to call it. One thing to note though is that those stock diff breathers are actually stamped into the differential. They do not thread in, so the little adapters that come with the ARB kit, which you can see right there at the top, those will not screw in to your diff unless you tap it. So I basically just got a little short piece of hose clamped it, and then I hose clamped the threaded part of that diff breather kit onto the top of that hose.
Did the same kind of install procedure. So one hose here is for the front, one hose there is for the back. The back one I just ran down here, down the wheel well, and then all the way back to the back. Curled a little loop so that it has some room as the rear sag, or as the differential in the back sags down at its, I guess, its longest travel point, or whatever you want to call it. It does have two additional ports at the top, and they give you these two little plugs. What I could do at some point, and I probably will, is run additional lines, one for the transfer case and then one for the transmission. I'm assuming it's going to be the same case when I get back in there and look at how those breathers are installed on the transmission and the transfer case. I'm assuming they're probably just going to be stamped in, so I'm going to have to figure out, you know, adding a little piece of hose with some hose clamps and clamping on the adapters into that or something. So I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, there's a bunch of little things here and there that I've done. Let's see. I'm running a GM alternator. If I remember correctly, that's the 78 amp. Ended up taking the I guess timing cover off. I bought a new one because it came with the old one that I had. There was an oil leaking issue with the crankshaft down below, and I guess the camshaft. The little seals on there were leaking, which was causing oil to kind of build up and spew out of this area. So I took the valve cover, or the timing cover, off here, and I ended up just buying a new one because it comes with a nice new seal and everything. I also bought a new back plate here when I did that, because I just didn't want to install a bunch of crappy stuff again, so I just decided to replace it. It wasn't too expensive, so replaced the front cover, the back cover up top here, put in new seals, new belts, checked my timing, made sure everything was good after I did all that. I did that at the same time that I installed the radiator and electric fan, because well, it's tight down in here, so for me to be able to work in here, it made sense to kind of do, you know, remove this, do that, and then kind of come back and install new parts. I was having an issue with the stock radiator, the upper, I don't know what this is called here, but the upper part of the radiator, I guess, had a little bit of a crack around that weld or whatever. So not this one, the aluminum one is working great so far, but the stock one had a crack and it was just leaking, and rather than trying to take the radiator to a radiator shop and have them, you know, fix that, I figured I'd just go with the aluminum one. I believe it holds more antifreeze, so it keeps, you know, you have more surface area or whatever, keeps it cool. When it mounted, or when I mounted this, I mounted it into the original position, but it does sit higher than the stock one, obviously, because it is slightly bigger. So I ran into an issue where I didn't notice it for a while, but
you can see right here on the corner of the radiator, it was rubbing, and then it started rubbing a little bit there too. And what happened, I'm glad I caught it when I did, because it really hasn't gone really far in. Obviously it rubbed this well down a little bit, but it's not leaking or anything. And I think I caught it in time before it caused any major, or quote unquote major damage to the radiator. But what was happening was the hood was rubbing. So I ended up just taking my grinder, cut out an area, got some little chrome door trim stuff and put that on there, so it just kind of kept those sharp edges nice and clean. And now it has plenty of clearance, because now that hole basically kind of sits about a 1/4 inch away from the radiator, and kind of just sits over the top of the radiator here and gives it plenty of clearance. It's just a minor little tweak that I did. I did end up putting some foam here and here, just to kind of help seat the hood as it sits down. And yeah, so I mean, everything seems to be running okay. I haven't really had any major problems, although a lot of things have been changed since I've gotten this. But overall, I just wanted to share some of what I've been doing and my, I guess, samurai project. I do have to, if anyone's wondering, I run that backwards because I removed the hood arm or whatever, the hood prop, and I just have the hood going all the way back. Before I installed the snorkel, the hood would actually come back and just rest up against this little nub, and I picked that up from low range. Obviously now when the hood comes back, it actually touches the snorkel and doesn't sit all the way back. Low range off-road hood scoop, or I guess air scoop, whatever you want to call it. Pick that up. Eventually I plan on running kind of some lights up here. I'm working and talking with some guys about fabbing up a custom roof rack that also allows me to have kind of a Baja style lights up top. Probably run 4 7-inch LED lights, the circle ones though, not like the LED bar. I like the look. The only really major body damage, I picked this up about 2 years ago, and the only body damage I really found was that there was, this little panel here was dented in, and there's a little dent there that you can see kind of only when the light hits it right. I believe it was because the previous owner that I got it from, or whoever owned it in the past, had hit something here in the front, which caused the body to kind of have some issues. Or possibly someone opened the door too hard, which bent that in, and maybe they did it with their knee, who knows. I did remove the stock plastic, I guess, beauty rails. They're not quite rock rails because they're just plastic. I removed those, and those hook on with this piece of metal, and I had to get the spot weld drill bit to drill that little piece of metal out of there. Cleaned it up, and that's actually just Rust-Oleum bed liner spray paint. I taped it all off and just spray painted that, so that basically it prevents anything from building up behind those stock beauty rail, rock rail things, so that mud and whatnot and snow doesn't build up back there and cause that lower part to rust away. So it obviously isn't protected, but it's basically prepped and ready to put on some official rock rails, so that I don't have any issues riding on the trails and smashing into something there. So inside, I replaced the seats with the Carburetor
seats. Did the Grant, I guess GT steering wheel. Picked up the white gauges. I'm running the Sunoco. That's just, I took out the clock because it wasn't working when I got it. And I put in the voltmeter, which is running to my primary battery. So I can keep an eye on that, monitor that. I showed you the oil pressure gauge there. I have an additional wire here that I plan on hooking up an additional voltmeter to my auxiliary, or I'm sorry, my dual battery, the secondary battery. Yeah, I got the white gauges there, got the white gauges on the heater control area there. Low range off-road, shifter knob, which are pretty sweet looking. Ended up fabricating a custom armrest because when you put in the aftermarket seats, the Carburetor seats, basically the gap between your seats shrinks because these seats are slightly wider. You can't really see it there, but I basically I picked up the low range off-road brackets for the front two, as well as the rear seat. It's a little bit dark, so you can't see that. But I wanted an armrest and something that I can kind of tuck some things in. So I basically picked this little armrest, which actually matches pretty good, kind of the same leather or whatever. Picked that up. It was relatively cheap. Got that on Amazon. I believe it actually is, what was it? It was from, oh gosh, is it Pontiac Grand Am or something? I can't remember exactly, but it was from another vehicle basically. But it basically had the box, the armrest part, and the little side arms. What I ended up doing is fabricating a metal, I just welded up some angle iron to basically, that allowed me to bolt the angle iron bracket or part mount, I guess, to the vehicle. And then it allowed me to slide on the plastic armrest and then, screw that into the sides there. So that's nice. I got a little something to rest my arm on. I wish I had better cup holders. I do not. I have the, generic cheap little guys that just clip on the window there. I got some ideas on how I can make that better, but that's a future maybe video and project. Running my little buddy here, a little R2D2 bobblehead. So yeah, running the BF Goodrich all-terrain tires. These are the, oh gosh, what is the size here? 215 75 R15. So that's the size I'm running. I don't need anything huge. I mean, for what I do, 2-tracking and camping, trail riding, occasional mud hole or water hole, some sand, gives me, plenty of traction. I'm not really rock climbing or doing anything aggressive like that, so it'd be fun, but it's not something I really do based on living here in Michigan. I am running the Old Man Emu leaf springs, the HD springs in the back, and then the HD front leaf springs with an added leaf up front to just kind of help out for the weight of the bumper, and also helps, make sure that those leaf springs don't settle too much. My stock springs were running pretty much flat when I installed them, or when I installed the Old Man Emu springs. So the fender was sitting, a lot lower. I ended up gaining about 3 inches actually from where it was sitting before I lifted it. I'm running the also the Old Man Emu gas shocks, or struts, I guess if you want to call them, or whatever. I ended up replacing the Warren, or replacing the stock hubs with Warren hubs. I did get the low range off-road knuckle rebuild kit. So I had rebuilt my knuckles, extended brake lines, the braided ones. I also running new transfer case I picked up from Trail Gear, and running the MK2 transfer case cradle. The transfer case itself, I believe it's the 4:1:6 gear ratio, or reduced low range basically. I guess the high range is reduced a bit as well. Low range, you can definitely feel the reduction when you put it in, even though I'm not running the most aggressive gear reduction that you can run, which is I think 651 or something, which obviously is more suited for larger tires and possibly, you know, a bigger lift. But when it is in low range gear and you let off the gas, it wants to go, you know. So, or sorry, when you let off the clutch, it basically crawls around, and definitely has a lot more power, or I guess torque, or whatever you want to call it, when it is in low range. So yeah, I thought I would just share some things I've done. You know, the Samurai community is great, and I'm really happy with what I've done, and you know, I love my little truck, and hopefully this helps you guys get some ideas. And yeah, it's just sharing my rig, and yeah, hopefully maybe I'll see you on the trail.